Hello, everybody. We Paddy across the shock and from across the shock. You're very welcome. Didn't do a video yesterday. Spent the day with the wife. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Sorry for those who are disappointed, but I just needed a wee day off myself, to be perfectly honest, and I enjoyed the time I had off. But I'm back again because I want to, and that's the nice thing. I always want to. A day's usually long enough during this time of being locked up, for want of better words. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about blade steels. But I'll make this claim right from the word go so that if you want to move, this is not scientific talk about blade steels. I'm not talking about metallurgy, whatever that big word is. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to go through one of the questions you get asked as a YouTuber on knives is, what knife should I buy? What blade shield should I buy? How much should I spend? What's the best I can get for this money? And they're the questions you get asked repeatedly because there's constantly new people coming on the channel, new people coming to knives, and it's our responsibility to give them a half decent answer. So some of these things I'm going to give answers to that maybe mightn't suit everybody, but the answer I give somebody who's just coming around, because not everybody comes around with the same budget. There's some very much down this end, some very much up this end. And the spectrum in between in blade steels is mind-blowing if you don't know what you're talking about. And when I came around myself, I knew nothing. I just knew a knife got sharp, you cut, and that was it. So this is a little breakdown of, for those who maybe just come around, it's a place they can go back to and have a look. Oh, I remember Paddy done that video. He's telling us about steel. This is what it is. So I'm going to start with two traditional knives, which seems fairly apt. So this is a GEC knife, over £100. This is a Rough Rider knife, about £15. Absolutely fine. Two nice knives, two nice looking blades, about the same size. Why is there such a price difference? Is the steel on this blade much better than the steel on this blade? Well, the steel on that blade is better, but it's not £100 better. This is 440A. This is 1095 carbon steel, which will rust if you don't look after it. But if you patina it, you can look after it. And it's a good steel. It comes to a screaming edge. And this gets a good edge too, but this gets a screaming edge, and it will hold the edge a bit longer than the 440A, most of the time. So why would I spend the extra money? Well, if you're just coming around and you're just getting into it, I would say go for this. See what you think of it. Learn how to sharpen it, and then move on to maybe a more expensive knife. The expensive knife gives you beautiful bone. It gives you fit and finishes beyond anything. GEC's fit and finishes beyond anything. And then in between these two, you'll have Case, which have some great patterns, great knives coming out. The steel is much the same as on here, but it's about halfway in between the prices because their fit and finish and their standard materials are supposedly that much better. Now, blade steels, honestly, there's not that much difference in cutting as far as endurance with these two blades. This will last a bit longer, there's no doubt about it. This is better finished, better made, but they'll still work. And if you have a little sharpener to take with you, they'll last you a whole day. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who's going to hard use a knife. This is a pocket knife, a little pen knife. All these are pen knives, pocket knives. Some of them are bigger than others, but they're not meant for beating to death. They're just styles. So for those two, there is no concernable difference in why you should buy one other than the other. It's just your budget, and it's also the difference in quality of materials and the way the knife works. So stepping up from the budget style, this is what I would call, this is the budget. You've stepped up to this. And then you've got a couple of Chinese brands or makes which are out there, which are fantastic. This is the 8CR13 and this is the Oz 8, which are both Chinese steels. They've been using these steels for years and years, and the reason they keep using them is because they're a great budget steel, and they produce a really good edge. They're easy to sharpen, and they last a fairly long time. This is going to get you through most days. If it isn't, you're working an awful lot harder than me. But again, this is a sort of steel, if you think you're going to work a wee bit harder, take a wee sharpener with you. And I keep pointing out that this is the one that my one of choice is a Victorinox one, wee pen sharpener, but there's lots of other different ones. That's just one that I would carry if I think I'm going to do a wee bit of work. But for most days, the Oz 8 HCR13 will get you through the day, not a problem. These are budget knives. You know, these are $20 knives, £20 knives. They're just cheap knives, but they get the job done. They're good knives. So if you come around, and I would recommend the HCR13 on Oz 8, especially if you're on a budget, any of these knives, especially this one, I think is one of the best buys anybody can get. In fact, everybody should have one of these. These are a great knife. Great knife. It's a nice one-handed opening. Beautiful knife. Solid. It feels much more solid than it looks. But it's just a budget steel. A budget Chinese steel. And then we'll move up to another Chinese steel, which is 440C. And I'm sure you've heard talk about it. This is what the old Ganzos used to be made. But nearly all knives were made of 440C at one time. This was a top blade steel that Benchmade used, Spyderco used. This was an amazing, and still is, an amazing blade steel. I love 440C for the fact that it sharpens easily. The same as these other blades. 440C is a good working blade. Again, if you're going to work extremely hard, take a wee pen sharpener. It sharpens in no time at all. And in fact, all of these sharpen on that wee pen sharpener in a matter of, a minute. You can bring an edge back again, as long as you don't completely batter it. But 440C is one of my favourite. It would be my favourite budget steel. And it would be my favourite over even something like D2. Because D2 can rust. And if you're living in an area where there's a humid, it's humid or whatever, D2 rusts. But this is a really good example. And this is where I think you're stepping up into maybe better blade steel. D2 is a good blade steel. Takes a good edge, lasts for a good amount of time, as long as the heat treat's good. So again, the warning with these ones is they're the budget knives, but they're sort of ones that have been used, the steels have been used for years, and they're pretty reliable in their workings. D2 seems to be the one at the minute that everybody's been using this last couple of years, but the heat treat can vary from knife to knife. I know that Civivi, which this is an Elementum, one of the most wanted knives in the last year, but I know that their heat treat's good in this one, so I'm quite happy to recommend something like a Civivi, and it's at a reasonable price for what you're getting. I think you're getting a good offering with this. So when I try to recommend something, it's something that I've used and that I know is good. And there's no point asking me, is this good though? If I haven't got it, I'm never going to give you an answer. I can only answer on the products that I've used. And that's what that's what you want from your YouTube friend or whoever you've made contact with. You want them to tell you what they know, not what they have been told or what they need to tell you what they've used. And most of us have gone through this stage, this progression in steel. So we do know what we like and what we don't like in this. And everybody's different. Everybody is different. Then you're going to go on to the Swedish steels, which are very popular. You have 12C27 and 14C28N. Couldn't get the words out. This is an excellent steel. This is in a Blur, which is in an older knife, but this steel is being used now in an awful lot of brands because it's good. It's a simple steel. It's not complicated. It sharpens easy, and you're sort of going to get the drift. I like things that you can sharpen easily. That's what I like in my collection. Knives that I can sharpen easily. And the Swedish steels are very basic steels, but they last a reasonable amount of time. 12C, just a wee bit down from this, the 14C28N, but this is an excellent working steel. Now, we're now going to take another jump up to what is the super steels. Excuse me. These are the steels that are powdered metal. These are going to last, their retention is going to last much better. And you're going to start with things like, You'll hear it all the time. Knives that are S30V. I haven't got an S30V here. I'm just going to move this up here. I haven't got an S30 down there, but I've got an S30V, which is, some say, an upgraded version of S30. I don't know. I don't know much difference between the two of them when I'm using them. I just think S30V, S35VN, to me, are both excellent steels. And they're on knives that are of great value, you know, of great value for money. You can still get them at a good price for a good knife. And that's what we want, is a good knife for a good price. S30V and S35VN, I highly recommend on any knife because they're usually pretty good. And people have got the heat treat down pat now, usually. And I have to keep saying usually because sometimes there's duff knives out there or people who give a bad heat treat. And that's why channels like Tom I was mentioning, he will pick that up because he and a few others test and they find out what's the good steels and what companies are putting out the good steels. So to go to their channels and find out, check what their heat treats are at the moment, you get a great idea of what's out there, more than I ever will. This is just to talk through for, if I was going to advise you, this is what I advise you, from this to this. And you can come in here at any time and know that you're going to get a good knife and a good steel. So S35VN is the start of what I think is the great steels. Not the great steels, they're just very good working man steels. They will get you through a day and you're not going to have to worry about carrying a sharpener. This is another steel, LC200N, which is a new steel from Spyderco. And I spoke earlier about how good Spyderco are at making knives with new steels. This is completely rust free. This whole knife has nothing on it, screws, anything that's going to rust, nothing whatsoever. So this is a great knife if you live by the sea or you're worked by the sea. Like I have a caravan by the sea. I'll spend quite a lot of time on the beach carving a bit of wood. So the salt's not going to affect this knife. I'm not going to get rust in this whatsoever. I can go swimming with it. Don't have to worry about drying it off or anything. So an absolutely brilliant choice from Spyderco. And then you're going to jump up to M390. And this is the steel of choice now. You've got M390, 204P, which is an American steel. I believe it's an American steel, I'm not sure. And then you've got 20CV, which is the American version. And they all come under the guise. This is a German Bowler M390, which is an amazing steel. Great edge retention as long as the heat treat is okay. And again, these steel testers are the people you got to go to their channels and check the results they'll be given. If it's going to bother you, if you're actually going to use the knife and you need this steel to be good. I mean, the materials in this are all good, titanium, micarta, M390, but you can buy them at a price that's really reasonable. This is £114. What's that, about $130, say. This is an amazing knife. Now, it's a slip joint, but that's because I live in the UK. But there's a part like this knife is about 140, 150 pounds, maybe a bit more. LC200. Spyderco also do the Spidey Chef, which is going to set you back 250. So you can still get good steels. They don't have to come in really dear packages. You can buy the FRN handle ones from Spyderco, which they're perfect at, which will give you a knife that's of superior quality to a lot of knives out there. There's the 20CV, that's a Hinderer, an American-made knife steel, which is just amazing. M390, same quality, absolutely brilliant as long as the heat treat's okay. But this is £300, that's just over 100. You've got to shop about. You've got to find out where your budget is, what you want to spend. So, I mean, I have knives that go up to $500. So if you ask me, what knife should I get and how much should I spend? I've got too many knives that I can give you an honest answer. If you let me know your budget, I'll tell you better what I've used. But I'll also say, look, try these other steels first. Get to know what they're like, and then you see the benefits of these bigger steels. Spyderco, again, bring out things like this here, which is CPM S110V. An amazing edge and lasts longer than anything down there. Lasts longer than anything down there. This knife is £111. So again, I'm not having to spend a huge amount of money for a knife that's got a great blade steel. And I'll just put that up there. So I hope that gave you a little small run through steels of the benefits of maybe starting somewhere down here and working your way up, getting to know each steel, what it does, why it does. But you can come in here. There's nothing to stop you coming in at the expensive end. That's great if you got the money. But don't worry if you have to start down here. You might be getting lesser materials, but you're still getting a knife, and a knife cuts. And all these ones from this 440A cut. And you can get a screaming edge on this, and it will cut. And it will cut like these. It mightn't cut for as long, but it'll still cut. And that's what we want the knife for. So I suppose what I'm saying is there's a wide variety of steels. There's just some of them down there. There's a gap that I have in mine. I have some other ones that I haven't even put down here. But just ask, and don't be too snobby to start here or here. You don't have to go into the high end straight away. You really don't. To know how these work. Because every one of these, I have no problem going into my drawer in the morning and picking one of these up just to do me about the house or to go out down the town. Not a problem. I know this will do me anytime. So what I've got is a variety of knives. If I'm going to go somewhere where I'm going to meet knife people, I want to take my Hinderer with me. Do you know what I mean? Or if I think I might want to show it off or put it on my Instagram, I'll take my Hinderer. If I'm just going down to the bin room and I'm going to cut up some boxes to put in the bin, I'll take a Rough Rider with me. But that's just me. Sometimes I might even take this with me just to have a go at it and get some use out of it, because some of my knives I buy and they're pretty and I don't use them a whole lot. And that's a shame, because a lot of these ones I'll use because they're knives that cut. Strange, really strange. So I don't know whether that was any interest to you. This subject interests me because so many people want to know when they come around, what should I buy? There's the answer. It's a wide range. Budget to high end. You've got to start somewhere. Wherever your budget is, give me the budget and I'll give you what I think is a good steel for that price. But I'll always say try down here. I'll always say it. And especially if you're coming around, and sharpening is a thing at the minute. I really want to push sharpening, because if you can sharpen, this knife is as useful as this knife. This $15 knife is as good as this $300 knife as a tool. As a tool, if you know how to use this. If you don't know how to sharpen this in the field, you are stuck with a £300 knife that's blunt on you. What do? You're not going to go and get a stone and sharpen this. Well, you can with this. You're not going to care. Do you know what I mean? So always think what your knife is for whatever occasion. We can't always there. As long as you have a knife, that's the important thing. And if you're a knife lover, you have a knife. There you go. Don't know whether it was waffle. You'll let me know down below, I know. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Thank you for those that are looking after us and taking care of us at these hard times. Take care. Paddy's away for a wee cup of tea.